were sitting here kicking around. Good morning, friend, first of all.
Good morning, guys.
Morning, Freddie.
We're kicking around, the coaching options here, and certainly there's some great coordinators that are on the list. And I'm wondering, Fred, would you have any concern? Is this a fair concern? Is it valid at all? But I think of the coordinators in Baltimore and Buffalo, Joe Brady and Todd Monken, each who are reportedly finalists here. Should I be a little more concerned about an offensive coordinator whose quarterbacks are so good making plays off script? You know what I mean? It feels like Lamar and Josh Allen do so much that's outside of any play call or playbook that I don't know how much their coordinator would or should get credit for it. But I suppose that you have those kind of nuances with, a lot of situations around the league.
No, I certainly understand what you mean. It's like, can you have one without the other?
Right.
And who's pulling who along? Is there a certain handicap set based on whether the quarterback is just elite? And it doesn't matter who's in there. For example, Ken Dorsey, who was in Buffalo, he went on, and now he's being fired after a year in Cleveland. But that quarterback play hasn't been, it's been very subpar for the past several years. So it's like potato. Who knows, right? And we also said that when Doug Peterson came in, we were all excited that first year. He's a quarterback's coach. He's a former quarterback, played in this league. He's an offensive genius guru type. And we paired him up with Trevor, and that didn't work out so well. But also on the flip side, Trevor did have a few injuries. Did Doug call the plays all the time? We don't know because you insert Press Taylor, and a lot of fans have been calling for Press's head for a few years now. So in terms of hiring, you have to make a decision, and you never know what that looks like until you start winning ball games. You can say, well, this is our guy. We missed on this guy. You don't know until you start winning. I remember last week after our show, I mentioned Aaron Glenn, and then I saw a few tweets that they were going to add Aaron Glenn to the pot. And I know Patrick, I can't think of his last name right now. Graham. Patrick was in New England when I was finishing my career. Very smart, amazing person, a great personality, defensive mind, offensive mind. He can do it all. So, but we don't know until we start winning. No one cares. We care who the coach is based on track record right now and what they're doing. Their teams have success, but that doesn't translate to success in Jacksonville.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
It hasn't.
Aaron Glenn is an interesting one, and I know he had his interview this weekend along with Ben Johnson. And the buzz, and again, who knows, right? But the buzz is, I think he's going to get a job. I think it might be in New York. I've heard a lot about the Jets. So, we shall see. But
it's interesting.
He's very well thought of, and once you mentioned that, people kind of did a deep dive into him, and a lot of positive comments.
I can remember from the little NFL Films deal they do. What's it called? Hard Knocks. I can remember you could see the personality there and the way he worked with the offensive coordinator, the competition they set up. I think that was big in building ultimately what the Lions have become. So, yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think there's a lot of people, Fred, that would appreciate Aaron Glenn and what he would bring. Interesting. We want the offense to get going. 3 of the first 4 interviewed from the defensive side of the ball. Now, part of that is because you got to wait to interview some of these guys that are in the playoffs right now. Fred, if you were making it seems from talking to you last week and now the beginning of this that a guy who is a proven alpha dog leader of men is as important as either side of the ball that he might come from.
Yeah, that I think, and that's why I mentioned Aaron Glenn type, because I know what he stands for. I remember, and I mentioned to you guys that we were sitting in that ballroom at the hotel in Indy around combine time, and he said, I'm not leaving here until I get an opportunity to scout and build my way up this ladder, and I'm going to coach. And he said it that day. And I have to admire, that conviction and the will, the desire, the passion that he spoke to that day. And I know how he is as a former teammate. I know what he stood for then. I know what he stands for now. have an interview with him on our show, The Pivot, and just knowing AG. So I like that as a hire. But again, success is determined by how many wins you bring to the organization. I also felt like after a few years, Mark has gained so much experience. He's working under Ben Johnson there in Detroit. Why not also potentially look at Aaron Glenn and maybe Mark Brunell as an OC?
Yeah, we thought about that.
Amazing, so I mean, that's, and I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Sure, yeah.
But I also like Steve Spagnuolo, someone who's so much experience, a defensive guru. He shut down Tom Brady in 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
He's been alongside Andy Reid, one of the greatest offensive minds in the entire game of football. Now, I believe that's only made him a better defensive coordinator. It's going to make him a better coach. I think he understands relatability when it comes to players. No, we won't have a Patrick Mahomes back there, but we do have a Trevor Lawrence. And Spagnuolo might be a guy who gets it. You have to have a coach who gets it, who understands the dynamics and how to build a roster, and also who knows how to be relatable when times get tough. And I think Spagnuolo can be that guy with his experience. I think Aaron Glenn and his passion for the game and his sense of urgency and attention to detail, I believe those two can be at the top of my personal list for candidates that are out there. And I do like what Ben Johnson has done with the turnaround in Detroit. But again, Jared Goff isn't a bum. And when you talk about these other guys, they have some dog quarterbacks back there.
Fred, one of the hot topics after the weekend in the National Football League as we watch Wild Card Weekend in the playoffs, and it appears like nothing's going to change in Pittsburgh. I just wonder if a change of scenery, because we all know if Mike Tomlin left, he would get scooped up by there'd be 25 teams knocking at his door. But sometimes you wonder if the message just gets old, or does it get stale or whatever. But for the Steelers, and the Steelers have these expectations, as you know, Steeler fans, and it's been a few years since they won what is it, Jeff?
I think
16?
15 or 16.
They won a playoff game since 16. He's never had a losing record.
We beat him in 17.
I don't think anybody's arguing he's a great coach. He is a great coach. I'm just wondering if it would serve him and the organization if they parted ways. What do you think?
Well, you can always go out there and hire someone who isn't proven or someone who lacks consistency and find yourself at hello? Can you hear?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can find yourself at 3-14 or 2-15.
Yeah, that's fair. I see your point.
I get from Coach Mike Tomlin, you're going to get a ton of consistency. You know what you get. It's going to be black and white year in, year out, and he's going to give you a shot. Whether it's 8-9, whether it's 9-8, 10-7, it's a tough division over there.
Yeah,
with the Ravens, Lamar, Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow, and what they have. And I mean, so you can take a shot and say this isn't working. We got to improve and get better. Yes, that's the mindset. But also, the grass isn't always greener. You know what Tomlin's going to bring to the table. You can sleep peacefully at night. At the very least, your fan base will be entertained throughout the duration of the season. It might be some heartbreak in the playoffs, but you're in the playoffs.
I think part of the problem for Tomlin is that he's been too good for them to be able to draft the quarterback they need, right? They're always they're not quite good enough. They don't have a quarterback, and they're not good enough to make a serious run at the Super Bowl. But because they're going 10-7, 9-8, they're picking 20th. They never, because they've tried, right? They took Pickett one year. They've taken guys. They just can't find the quarterback after Roethlisberger. I think that's more the reason for the playoff drought than Tomlin, for sure.
Yeah, and also I think when you have other teams that have just amazing rosters, because that Steelers team isn't a bum team. It's not a bad team.
Fair.
Obviously, they made the playoffs. I mean, the Ravens are just better. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, they're a ton to deal with. The Ravens defense has gotten better at the right time of the season. They've ascended. They found that good mix and that chemistry, and they're playing well. They're playing fast. They're communicating, and they're flying around the ball. But, again, I don't believe that Steelers team is a bad roster. I like what Russ did this year. Justin Fields, who knows what he's capable of. He's not playing a ton. That defense is that defense. They have some amazing talent. They draft well. It's just a matter of time before you see the Steelers back in the AFC Championship. Mike Tomlin has what it takes. I don't believe the Steelers fire him. I don't believe you'll see him coaching anywhere anytime soon.
Fred, I have one more question for you. You said something last week, and doggone it stuck with me, and I even watched the games differently this weekend. So I'm going to ask you a question about something you just said in passing.
All right.
Why do you hate the toss? Why do you hate the toss sweep? I see a lot of teams running that toss. So, and then I started thinking, I wonder why Fred hates that play. Why do you hate the toss sweep compared to?
It's a play that's supposed to test the leverage of the defense.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't mind an outside stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the ball deep in the backfield. Your quarterback has to be on his horse to get it to me. But I would rather have my eyes on the defensive end and on the defensive leverage versus taking my eyes off the ball, off the leverage, securing the catch and the pitch, and then put my eyes back to
what an interesting answer. Well, that's not the answer I was expecting. That's. I'm glad I asked.
I much rather just have it in my hands now, so I can run my track and keep my eyes on the defender.
Mm-hmm.
The quarterback's job is to put it in my pocket.
Okay.
My job is to clamp down on it, all while still keeping my vision and my sight on the defender. And when I have it in my hand, I'm ready to react, make a move, versus taking my eyes off the defender, looking the ball in, and then putting my eyes back on the defender. That split second can be costly, and sometimes the pitch works. But it's the NFL. Everyone's fast. If a defender is playing his leverage, no way you get out there.
Gotcha.
It just doesn't happen. You have to have a Tony Baselli looking for you to make it happen. I'd much rather just have a 39 boss outside stretch handoff and let me do my thing.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Great stuff, Fred. Give me 39.
Thank you, Fred. Yeah. All right, Freddie. We'll talk to you next week. Appreciate you, my brother.
All right, guys.
All
I'll
right.
see you soon.
Yes, sir.
There he goes. That's Fred Taylor. Best of them. We love Freddie. Guys, since he showed up in 1994 on the
6'2"
campus.
stack monster. 6'2" stack
Right.
monster. Ready to break.
All right, this is the drill. It's the Monday morning quarterback divorce, menonly.com.